And we're on the air. I want to welcome everybody into the Fifth Dimension podcast. And Jim, thanks so much for coming on the show and taking the time to be here today.
My pleasure, Evan. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, of course. And we were kind of talking about a bit before we started. Everything that your journey is sort of everything we try and bring out in this show. And so I'd love to sort of start with you talking about sort of your own journey. And I was reading on your website in your bio, you grew up, you're half Indian, half English. You felt like you didn't have sort of your own roots per se. How did you sort of go about creating like your own story, your own narrative, and, embarking on the journey that you did?
Well, I just searched and searched and searched and tried loads of different things from a very early age, actually. I mean, when I was like 17, I moved to London, and went to college and lived an amazing London in the 90s was like the 1960s again. It was an amazing time. It was a really kind of inventive, creative time. And I was trying things like meditation and yoga and Taoism and shamanism and just anything that I could really, I suppose, fill the hole with. And it took me a long time to realize that I didn't have to just do one thing. So I didn't have to be a this or a that. I mean, now, for example, I am a Nicherin Buddhist, and I've been practicing that for about 13, 14 years, but that's one facet of me. And I think I really, being a mixed race person, I really craved having some kind of root, because I say, well, I'm half Indian and half English, but what it means is that I'm not actually English and I'm not actually Indian. No. And there was a lot of kind of sadness within me before I realized that. And then therefore I could fill that hole with whatever I wanted to. The world was my oyster as long as I went out there and tried different things.
I like that a lot. And I feel like there's a lot of people sort of in that same scenario where they have the opportunity to fill that hole. And I feel like a lot of people don't necessarily know how to do it. We don't really teach how to sort of fill that hole. And like with your, studying into all these different fields and, really doing all of this research, what would you say you sort of learned about, yourself and, human nature and maybe the interconnectivity of all of us? And like, when we're trying to like fill that hole externally, you could say, what was sort of that discovery process like?
It was a really long, it was a long journey with a lot of kind of failures, and a lot of trying things that didn't really work, and often a lot of putting myself in a position where I wasn't particularly comfortable. But I come from a family that's very, very motivated and very inquisitive, very curious, and I really value that. I think the most important thing for me, and it's something that I carry through with all of the work that I do now, is just to really, how can I put this? How can I give you an image? It's like, I was talking about this to someone the other day. So you come into you come to this earth and you come into this life, and you're pure, and then very slowly you are given layers of conditioning, and layers of conditioning by your education or your family or your society or your country or your race, or there's so many different places that it comes from. And then you get to a point where you've kind of had enough of that, and you realize that that's not actually you. It's just other people's stuff that has been given to you and you've accepted because you didn't know anything, you didn't know any different. And so I really find absolute authenticity is the key. And everyone, most people I talk about this to initially will say, but I'm authentic. This is me. What else do you want? No, but when you really work on yourself and you really take that, that search for meaning within yourself, it brings out a real pure essence that is you. And in doing that, it's like the more you look for meaning in your life, the more you look for things that make sense, the more it brings your energetic body or your energetic being to a place of strength. And that
Mm.
strength makes you want to find more meaning and do more things and learn more about the world and give more to the world and create more things. And so there's this never-ending cycle of meaning, gaining meaning, and then living mission. And so it's like, when I was about 25, I started that. And
Mm.
I was just inhaling everything, because I felt that that was my moment, and shedding lots and lots of rubbish.
Right.
And in doing so, I've really started to see who I actually am, and then what value I could bring in the world. And then, and the more layers that came off, the more meaning I found in the world, and in my own life and in my own actions. And then, therefore, the more kind of I felt like I had a mission in life that I was compelled to do or be or help or
Right.
whatever.
Definitely. And I think that's such an important, journey for people to embark on. And I think we sort of see this starting to really happen at the collective level too. I mean, we just look at, the protests going on right now in the world with, you know, talking about systematic inequalities and racism and needing to, individuals to sort of look within inside themselves to sort of see where they come from and see what sort of conditioned beliefs have been placed upon them. Because, I'm a true believer that everybody has sort of a unique purpose, a unique gift and talent that they can, sort of contribute to the collective with, and ultimately make sort of the world, humans sort of can have this symbiotic relationship with the world when we are able to find our purpose and sort of, uh, you know, contribute to the betterment of the collective and betterment to humanity. Would you, and something I like, I have a teaching background, and, I work with kids, and something I always try and, based on sort of like the standards in America of education, it's very difficult to, um, there's so much you have to cover in terms of just, I want to call it garbage, just testing and standards, and there is a lot of conditioning in it. I always struggle with, how do we sort of emphasize this need to look within, and sort of this embarking on this journey, um, to individuals. And would you say that we've sort of we've sort of replaced that in society, like the embarking on this journey with sort of external, you know external validation, and, looking for everything outside of the individual self, and, you know when really we're just sort of covering up that desire for connection and that desire for unity. um, and sort of, how do we like get back on that path, would you say?
I think that the kind of the worst thing that my education did for me personally was bring in the concept of competition,
Mm.
no? And therefore failing, or being a failure, or not being as good as. I
Right.
mean, if you've worked as a teacher, that's the most valuable thing. That's the most fantastic thing that you can do, is really empower a child. No, I mean,
Hmm.
I'm sure that I'm dyslexic or ADHD, or many of those. I'm very creative, but when I write, the letters come out wrong, um,
Hmm.
and they didn't really know what to do with me when I was at school. And also, I was the only kid of coloured skin at the time, and they really enforced life is this, life is competition, and you have to do this, you have to do this, you have to do this, no, when you finish school, you have to go to university, otherwise you won't get a job, or you have to get a master's. But to
Hmm.
be honest with you, none of these things really matter. It's, for me, for example, I have a daughter who's 11, and she goes to a school that is based on democratic education, where there is no competition or pushing, or even there are no classes. Everything's project based.
Hmm.
And the most important thing for me is I don't really care what she does. It doesn't matter to me if she works in a bank or if she's anything. It really doesn't matter, as long as she can create value in her life and create value in the lives of others.
Right.
And be happy, be actually happy without having to buy stuff to make her happy.
Right, definitely. And I think that's so important. Absolutely. We don't necessarily teach, I see in the schools, we don't necessarily emphasize that. Like I try and, when I work with students, I do try and, um, I believe very much in a project-based mindset and sort of a creative mindset and working to like the strengths of each individual, student. I think that's really the most important thing we can do. And so I think we're starting to move that way in terms of, if we look at public education, we do see that more emphasized in things like teacher trainings. And just because we're starting to recognize that every kid is going to be different, every kid's going to have their own unique skill set. And so I think when we can sort of tap into that early, you can really get kids thinking about what is it that I'm good at? What is it that I like doing? And that sort of allows people to find their passions, allows people to, sort of embark on the path that they're meant to be. And, coming out of high school, I had no idea what I necessarily wanted to do. I felt like sort of lost, and I almost sort of stumbled into I got the spiritual journey just by happenstance. And I think that's what happens to a lot of people. And I'm very blessed to have been able to find myself in that situation. And it I think that notion of competition, like we have the grades, we have, you're expected to get a certain amount of points on this test, and there's even some schools that will post the grades of every student on their door and like you can see who got an F, you can see who's failing, like. And so naturally if you're the kid with the lowest grade, but maybe you're extremely artistic, you're going to like, you have these beautiful drawing abilities, and like you can like the next Picasso. But if you're not good at algebra and you get an F, you're going to feel like a failure. And you know I think there's a lot we can sort of improve to sort of create a new paradigm, if you will, that allows people to play to their strengths. And I always wonder how we can sort of get that going on a societal level, I suppose, like get that to sort of a more accepted view, because I think a lot of people do expect their children to follow the specific, you got to go to college, you got to do this, you got to do like get a good cozy job, like do you have any thoughts on how that process is this sort of a long-term goal, and we just sort of have to allow more and more individuals to sort of
I think
create this?
You and I, we came from a certain generation, and our parents came from a certain generation, and I love my parents, they're amazing people, but they came through a certain life with certain teachings and understandings, and they then introduced that to me. No,
right.
I then introduce what I feel is wrong or right to my own daughter. But society, you see, often when we talk about society and changing society, people feel helpless because you're like, well, I'm just a person. How's I going to help society? What can I do to change society? No. But the thing is that one person can change the entire world. It's as simple as that. But you've been taught something else. You've been taught that you need to have this, or you need to do that, or to have success, you need to have this, this, and this, or do you know what I mean? And so in a way, we've been disempowered before we even knew it. And it's no one's fault, but we're here now. So for me, I mean, what I do in my work, well, for example, I have an Instagram account where we do affirmations and videos to help, really just to help empower other people. And we get wonderful, wonderful messages from people all the time saying how much they value the fact that there's someone there just sharing new codes, a new paradigm, a new way of understanding life, without asking for something in return, without you having to pay for it, or without there being some kind of agreement that you have to make with your own life. I
Mm,
really personally feel that um, every single person, whether they're a child or any age, has the capacity to change their society by changing their own attitude, by really, really having conscious awareness of who you are and what you're doing, and your actions, and every action you take, and each word has strength to it, and each word brings energy to a different situation. I mean, you can I mean, I have a Buddhist friend who's a policeman,
mhm.
and he really is able to stop moments of violence with his words, or with aggression, or
Right.
with aggressive action. And it's how you choose to live, and then stand by that. Because one thing that we are not taught in schools, and I try really hard to kind of impart on my daughter, is consistency. Be consistent in your actions as much as you can. Obviously, you're a human being, which means you're a chaotic, random explosion of
Right.
nature. No, but at the same time, um, without imposing kind of an authoritative level to it, just be consistent. Be aware of yourself, and each person you meet. There's a lovely phrase that goes along the lines of, be the person who is the first one to smile at everyone else in the morning.
Mm,
Now, obviously, you're going to have days where you're not up for that, and that's fine.
right.
But if you could have that mindset and have that attitude, okay, right, I'm going to smile at everyone I walk past in the street. It's funny at the moment with coronavirus, everyone's wearing a mask, but you can
Mhm,
still see the people who are smiling. Or if you're in the supermarket, you can still see, the person who's whistling
mhm.
because he's happy, or they're happy. No,
Right.
and you walk past that person who, yeah, they have a mask or gloves or whatever on, but they're happy, and they are exuding positive energy as much as they possibly can without exhausting themselves.
Absolutely. And sort of that energy has its own frequency. And it's contagious, if you will.
Yeah, it is.
And it's something that I still try and do in my own daily life, bring out into the world that positivity and that mindset that, if like I think we are taught to sort of disregard or not realize sort of the power of our own individual action. Just smiling at somebody else, you never know what sort of domino effect that can take and what that might lead that other person to do, and maybe they're going to go in the rest of their day with a positive attitude, and they might create something beautiful. It's sort of I, I've always been been saying, like, imagine like seeing your level of contribution like laid out on some sort of chart or some sort of you know measure infographic. I think we'd all be astounded by the level that we can make a difference in the lives of others, and the level that uh, what we contribute ultimately to the world. So I do think it is really important to sort of um, gain that level of empowerment. And now I think, with that being said, that's something that we sort of have to practice. It's something we have to really it's not something that happens overnight per se. It's called the spiritual journey and a practice for a reason. Like, it's not like you're saying, there's going to be times where we're tempted to not smile. Like, we don't want to smile. We especially with everything going on, it can be very easily to feel overwhelmed and to feel like maybe we can't make a difference. But and with something, I know you do a lot of like visualization work, and you do affirmations. Would you say that sort of just embracing like these simplistic experience, like they're simplistic in their own ways, that you can sort of just do it and feel it and know that difference, something like about like meditation and all of these practices, is there is a bunch of like scientific research. There's loads of research that back it up, and a lot of people want to see that data, and before venturing in, like, I need to know it's going to fix X, Y, and Z. Would you
Mm.
say sort of just the experience can be sort of more valuable than looking at that data, and really just trusting our experience and like sort of going with that flow, as opposed to maybe trying to take such an analytical approach?
I would say 1,000% yes. I think that we are very much conditioned to require a result straight away.
Mm.
Um, I click a button on my computer and Amazon sends me a book, no, and
Right.
therefore we really kind of often focused on the superficial, on what I can see. Well, I mean, yes, the only thing that is real is what I can see. No, that's how I learned life.
Right.
And so with things like affirmations or meditative practice, chanting, what you're doing is, what you have to remember is that, yes, you are Evan, okay? But actually you are trillions and trillions of individual cells who have come together to make a larger entity, like an enormous city that someone has called Evan. And so there are millions and billions and trillions of cells in your body, all working, doing their thing, processing, and so you kind of, we're taught that, well, you have a mind and a body, and that's pretty much it.
Mm-hmm.
And all things spiritual are generally outside of yourself, gods, or what have you, different types of gods or supernatural beings, or whatever. But when you really realize through meditative practice or chanting or things like affirmations that you are the universe, you yourself are an expression of the universe, you are Mother Nature's wish, you are the most incredible collection of energies.
Mm-hmm.
And not energies in a kind of hippie, people use the word energy a lot.
Right.
And it loses its power a little bit. But you're this amazing ball of fire sometimes. And when you introduce something like an affirmation or a visualization, you sit and you close your eyes, and you don't just visualize with your mind. You visualize with your entire being. You visualize with your heart. When we get away from just the mind bit, you are able to really change things in your life. You can manifest things. You can produce results of law of attraction, what have you.
Mm-hmm.
I think a lot of people jumped on the law of attraction bandwagon, and now everyone sells a course of how to do it and all the rest of it, and that's wonderful, and if those courses work for you, fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
But why does the law of attraction work? The law of attraction works because of the law of vibration. And so if your vibration is high, if you're vibrating in a good, nice, wonderful, whatever word you want to call it, frequency,
Mm-hmm.
you are naturally going to create a different external experience for yourself,
Right.
whether you think you're going to do it or not. But if you're in a very low, depressed, or sad, or a vibration that's lower, it's very difficult for you to get out of yourself. There's a very, very powerful Buddhist, there are two very, very powerful Buddhist concepts. One being that the internal environment is what reflects the external environment. So however the inside is, that's how the outside will be. And then, okay, if you want to do your law of attraction course and visualize yourself getting a Ferrari or whatever the thing
Mm-hmm.
is, wonderful. And if it works, awesome. No,
Right.
I take my hat off to you. No, but at the same time, just going on your own spiritual path for the duration of your life, because you never get to the end. No, you never actually get to the end. You're, for example, the Buddha, the original Buddha, 2000 and so many years ago, he was still teaching people up until the moment he died. In the last few days of his life, somebody gave him mushrooms or something that were poisonous or bad for him or something.
Okay.
And so he got food poisoning and he slowly died because he was old anyway. But he still carried on with his mission right until the last moment. And people in neighboring villages heard that the Buddha was there near where they lived, and they all rushed to see him. And he was like, well, I'm dying, but you know what? I'm going to fulfill my mission. I'm going to allow the internal to reflect outside. And if I can just help one person, maybe that one person, will create an entire society of good. Who knows? You never know.
Right.
So yeah, there's one Buddhist concept of the internal, it reflects the external. And there's another one which is fantastic. And I live my life by this one. And it's called the 3,000 realms in a single moment of life. Okay, the 3,000 realms in a single moment of life. And what it basically says is that when you are really vibrating at a really powerful, potent, empowered frequency, your life changes, because normally in your everyday life, you follow maybe 20 or 50 or 100 routines that you do every day. You get up, you have breakfast, you brush your teeth, you go to work, you talk to your partner a certain way, you talk to your children in a certain way. Everyone has their routines that they do in life every single day. You have variations, of course, no?
Mm-hmm.
But when you're in a really potent, strong, spiritually strong state, you have vision. And when you have vision, your vision opens up the true nature of life, and you begin to be able to see more of the 3,000 different possible paths that you can take, instead of the 20 or 50 or 100 that you normally take in your routine every day. And it's like you open your eyes and you're focused and you have vision, and you're like, I didn't realize that actually I could do that today. And then you take action. Of course, if you don't take action, it's meaningless. No?
Right.
And then you take action and you do that different thing. And it brings you a whole new path in life. It could bring you anything. No?
Right.
So for me, that law of attraction and all these things is basically that. It's you really working joyfully on yourself, on your heart, making your heart purer, trying to slowly remove the unpleasantness or the negative or the what have you, and just getting to an authentic place where you're just you in peace within. And then you start to have this vision, and all these wonderful new opportunities and paths open up for you.
That's beautiful. And yeah, I think it sort of lifts the veil, if you will, when you can sort of, embark on that journey. And as opposed to seeing, there's a fork in the road, you're maybe in one of the paths is covered up, you can't see it. So normally you might only see that first one, but when you sort of lift that veil, you can realize, oh, I have multiple options here. And you can sort of intuitively know which is sort of the right direction. And you can sort of, we can really listen to ourselves and find what it is that we're seeking, because what we're seeking is seeking us, the famous Rumi quote. So with you, so you're talking about sort of the law of attraction, you bring up the Ferrari, and I chuckled at it, but I also, when I hear that, I do sort of worry about, I guess not worry, and try not to worry about things too much, but like things like the law of attraction and meditative practice, almost sort of, everything is so commodified, but just like are these like, meditative and spiritual practices also being commodified in a way, like commercialized? I know that, we, in this society, we do need to make money, and we do need to sort of, money is essentially freedom in a lot of ways, like in terms of having your physiological needs met and sort of being able to live comfortably. But do you think that there's, with people using like law of attraction and in a commoditive way, it's almost detrimental to one's own spiritual journey by still using spiritual practices to fulfill external desire, if you will?
I think that spiritualism and money are intertwined.
Mm-hmm.
And people, I mean, I'm a healer. I'm an intuitive healer. Okay, so I heal. I do healing sessions and healing ceremonies with people. That takes my time. It takes my energy, and it takes all of those years of experience to get myself to this place. So there needs to be a flow of energy there. There needs to be a
Right.
flow of energy. So, you pay me some money, or you you buy me some flowers, or you do me a favor, or
Right.
you give something back to me. That's wonderful, and I would prefer that than money, but I need money as well. I have a mortgage.
Right.
Being spiritual doesn't mean I don't have a mortgage, dude. No.
Right.
At
Right. Right.
the same time, yes, you have, on social media, you have all kinds of people selling all kinds of courses of law of attraction, and you have the books. There's millions of books, and there was the one original law of attraction book, and now there's lots and lots of other books of people trying to explain it and how you do it and how to do it better than the other person. If you buy one of those books and it changes something inside of you, I would say that's enough. If I judge a person, for example, who has plagiarized the law of attraction and written their own book, that's just me allowing lower kind of energy frequencies into my life, or it's me accepting codes that don't deserve space in my life.
Mm-hmm.
So I think everyone needs to make money,
Right.
no, but also what about those people who really haven't had the chance or the time or the opportunity to embrace their spiritual side? I mean, I'm very lucky that I was compelled. I needed this journey, because otherwise I probably wouldn't have survived life. No, so I've put myself on it, and I've worked and worked and worked, and I've lost people or friends or things of my life, and I've gained wonderful things, and it's fine, and I'm still working on myself all the time, and I'm loving the journey, however difficult it may be some days or not. But there are people, and I meet them all the time in kind of social media, who have a very difficult life, who have an extremely difficult life that is full of pain and sorrow and sadness, because they never really got a chance to even think for themselves.
Mm-hmm.
And that person buys one of these books. Wonderful. If you get something out of that book, and it changes your perspective, and it opens your vision, or it connects you to your heart more, or it makes you stop and just realize something small, I think that's fantastic. I think I really think that's fantastic. I am a human being as well, and it's very difficult to be non-judgmental sometimes,
Yeah.
because if you're in a kind of anger state, or a lower life state, it's very easy to just fall into the traps that are there for you to fall into very easily. But at
Right.
the same time, that is why, and I tell you what, that's why coronavirus has been fantastic. It's been amazing, because so many people are doing yoga every single day, or meditating for 5 or 10 minutes every single day, or you're stuck in a flat, in a 1-bedroom flat, and you're not allowed out of, we're here in Spain, you weren't allowed out of your house, or what have you. What are you going to do? You have you there in your flat with you all the time, going like this and getting closer and closer and closer until you're
Mm-hmm.
like, oh my God, I've got to do something about this. I need to meditate or something. No? Or
Right.
I need to listen to meditation music on YouTube. And so that is going to produce a change and a transformation. And a lot of people do think, well, spiritual enlightenment, transformation is there's you, and then enlightenment, and then you're this totally other thing. No, it's like a long, slow, gentle process, day by day.
Right.
That's the wonderful thing about it.
Definitely. And enlightenment is almost like this. It's like when we start the journey, it's like we think it's sort of the end goal, but it's almost, enlightenment is actually sort of like the journey itself in a way, and like, embarking on that journey. And once you sort of reach a certain state, a point, you can sort of like, I noticed when I got to a certain point, I was looking back at sort of what sort of my old habits were, and sort of how I had, changed as a person. I was like, wow, if I had, like, I didn't even realize as I was embarking on this journey how much I have actually changed. And, I don't think we give ourselves enough credit for the work that we do in that inner work and that self-development. And we can really make, you know,
Mm.
years, especially with coronavirus, like you talked about, with having all this extra time, we can make years worth of changes almost in months time, in weeks time, like if we're really dedicated to bettering ourselves. One of my good friends who I actually had on my podcast talked about using this as an opportunity for, he called it like a self sabbatical, if you will, where he was, and it's certainly a position of privilege to be able to, not have to worry about necessarily paying your rent or your mortgage. And, you still have food on the table and a place to live. So, all of when the physiological needs are met and we do have all this extra time, and we're staring at ourselves like it's just me and myself. What am I going to do with my time? And sort of using that as uh, and that self sabbatical mindset. I think that's how we can make that, transformation and, dedicate to the journey itself. You
Mm.
know, like how, why would you say society in general and people, we really fear change, we really fear transformation? That's something that, you know when somebody tells you you've changed, a lot of times, like, it's almost in a they don't necessarily mean, it's like it's slanted in a way that it feels sort of negative. And we don't necessarily uh we're afraid to have people view us as a changed person because we sort of attach to certain beliefs and ideas. um how can we sort of get rid of our fear of change, and why do we fear it so much?
Why do so? Why? I mean, let's work it out. Why would you fear change? It's because the thing before the change fits in with all the other things around it,
Hmm.
and it's comfortable, and it conforms. There is conformity. No, um, for example, men are inherently lazy. A
Hmm.
man generally looks for comfort, no? And he gets all of his stuff around him, and then he's perfect.
Hmm.
But a woman's energy, for example, women's energy is very transformative. And a woman is always changing and taking on new things. And a woman's energy is much more cyclic. And it's very easy for a man to change that and to discard his conformity and to discard his comfort and then get on that journey. I think people fear change because because of the word in the question, fear. There is so much fear, and it's so easy to fear. And also, we've been programmed that fear produces this or fear produces that. Fear produces suffering in some way. So I'm probably going to suffer something if I change. No, but the Buddha says suffering is enlightenment. You know, I personally have gone through the most enormous suffering that I could make you cry in a second. No, but
Hmm.
I value it. I really am grateful for that suffering because it really brought me amazing change. Sometimes the change was painful, and but it's like there will always be pain and pleasure. There will always be wonderful things and difficult things. You cannot remove obstacles or difficulty or negativity from your life. It's like you cannot remove negativity from your brain and just be
Right.
positive. It's impossible. And not even the Dalai Lama or, but what you can do is you can say, well, okay, I have a bipolar brain where one half is positive and one half is negative, but the brain is not the driver or the leader or the boss. My attitude is the boss. And sometimes I have to really, you have to really struggle to get there with the attitude.
Right.
Sometimes and you're like, this person is really winding me up, but okay, but this person is in my life for a reason. This person is a mirror to me. This person is providing me with a learning experience, and so automatically you're not even getting caught up in the pain or the pleasure or the anything. You're like, okay, fine, I'm at school again for this moment. What do I need to do? What do I need to change here? What do I need to do here? I think there's so much fear in the world, and you can see it in the kind of political stances by how we are choosing our politicians. I'm not even going to go there. I'll get into any of that
Mm,
because it's not my cup of tea at all. But it's people don't people have so many thousands of generations of people who've wanted to have power over us have taken away our need to have responsibility in our own life, that we we don't want to have responsibility for things. Oh
mm,
well, yeah, I will just, yeah. It doesn't matter who's prime minister or who's the president or who this or who's whatever. As long as I'm all right, it's fine. No, and I give the responsibility of my life to whoever wants it. Really, as long as I'm comfortable, as long as there's no pain, as long as I'm not hurt by anyone,
mm.
everything will be all right. But that's a really old code that is dying, and it will die with generations, but it's also dying with people like you who are like, no, I'm not having that anymore. I don't believe that anymore. And if I have to die to really, well, maybe this is your view or not, I don't know, but for me, I've got myself to that stage so many times of, well, if I die tomorrow, okay, it will be a shame, but I'll die. But
Mm,
at least today, I had pride in myself, and valued what I did, and brought some kind of goodness to the people around me.
absolutely. And I feel the same exact way. That is sort of my exact viewpoint. Like this is a, a temporary physical experience, if you will, of me in my body. And, I have my own energy, and I'm a big believer in energy cannot be created nor destroyed, right? That's a proven scientific principle. So my body is energy and frequency in itself. When the physical body dies, the energy will it'll stick around in whatever sort of capacity. And so in terms of me living my life, I've gotten to the point as well where it's like I can see where I was conditioned to be afraid, and where I was externalizing even my own, sense of self and sense of responsibility and esteem, and sort of allowing the control mechanisms and the old codes to sort of run my own life. Yeah, and I think that's exactly what we're taught. People don't care about the politicians. They don't think it makes a difference. We sort of live in this um, conditioned hierarchy, if you will, of, there's always going to be these people at the top who are in control and sort of run what's going on in the world. And, then there's the rest of us, the 99%, and we don't have a say about what's going to necessarily happen. But I do think that that paradigm is starting to shift, and we sort of are having this, I guess you could call it a great awakening of people awakening to their own individual self, like, and awakening to their sort of connection to nature, connection to others, sort of realizing I view humans as almost sort of like a super organism, if you will, right? If we look at forests and trees, they're all connected at the roots. Like when one tree gets extra photosynthesized, like sunlight, it sends it through its root system to other trees so that they can lift each other up and they can all survive, because the survival of the forest leads to individual survival, like longevity. And I think humans are the same way. We are an interconnected species that has been our root system has been tangled up and like mashed together. Like it very much has been sort of masked, like hidden from us. But I think so many more people are starting to feel that and realize that, and I think we're breaking down, like we see, with protests going on, we see people wanting to end sort of these long, uh, these systems that have been in place for so long. We see people wanting to change, and so a lot of the people who are resistant to that, it's because they're not ready to make that change within themselves. I would say, and um, but I think people are starting to wake up to interconnectivity and realize sort of their that other people are an extension of themselves. Like in other cultures, there is no word for you. It's you're my other self. So it's sort of, I don't know. I'd be curious your thoughts on sort of that interconnectivity and sort of what that's like looking like? Are we sort of moving towards a space of interconnectivity and maybe a restructuring of our how humanity organizes in that way?
Yeah, I think definitely. Um, I think maybe now or in the past, people considered it brave for those who took a spiritual path, or you're brave, you know,
Mm,
you're giving up all of the materialism for something else. But and that is starting to not be the case. It's not a brave thing anymore. It's a normal thing, and that's a massive change.
mm,
I think that I was reading the other day something to do with, there's a great book. I haven't got it here. Um, about how, you know, when if you look at the matter, and you look at the molecules, and you look at the atoms, and when you look at them, there's actually nothing there. And you go deeper and deeper, and you kind of you keep looking into matter to find the base of matter, and there's nothing there until there's actually nothing. No?
mhm,
So I can say, therefore, well, I'm connected to you. I'm connected to everything. No, but my rational brain goes, yeah, but I'm not, because you're there and I'm here.
right.
No, but the point is that humanity cannot continue how it is going at the moment, because of the way we are treating our planet, because of our lack of care for what is around us. I mean, business is more important than people. You get an enormous factory that goes and it gets built somewhere, and it pollutes a river, and you know, all the animals and life dies or whatever. I remember we were in a clinic in Mexico, and there was this great documentary about a guy who inherited his farm, a guy in America who inherited his farm from his parents in the 40s or 50s.
Mhm,
And he thought, right, I'm going to make some money here. So he brought in all of the big chemicals and the pesticides and all the stuff and all the big, you know, ways of mass producing, and it made him a fortune. But within 2 years, he had cancer in his spine and
uh,
the horrible things. No, but
mhm,
he was then able to see. He was like, oh, wait a minute. But so I've done this, and this has happened. And life itself is based on the universal law of cause and effect. I do something, something happens. In everything, my words, in every single thing, there is cause and effect. And you cannot be foolish enough or blind enough to say that that isn't true. Any action you do or anything has an effect, whether you know what the effect is, or maybe you don't even see the effect. No, but maybe you do, and it slaps you right in the face as soon as you've made that cause.
mhm,
So you can say, right, if cause and effect is this universal law, I can make different causes. So if I really believe in interconnection of people, how can I really relate that to my own life?
mhm,
No, so it's like there's there are lots of people who believe we have had many lives. I believe in reincarnation, but in reincarnation in a very earthy, down to earth way.
mhm,
No, um, I know people who say, well, you know, they have memories of other lives, and there's a great phrase that says we are constantly reborn with our greatest teachers,
mhm,
and it's true. When you can be singular, you can absolutely live happily being totally singular and isolated from society and isolated from other people. And because we've also been taught that a lot, and we've had competition put in there as well, so it's good for me to be singular and you know, forget everyone else. I'm going this way. Forget all of you lot. No, so well, something has to really, in some people's lives, something brutal has to happen to pull them out of that singularity and have a realization or have an enlightenment of,
mhm.
oh, actually, we are all connected. No, actually, the most important person in a hospital is the cleaner.
Yeah, that's true.
Sorry, but it's true.
Yeah.
And it's as simple as that. And you're like, well, actually, you know what? I need to be saying hello to the cleaner every day I'm in hospital, or, you know,
Hmm.
whatever the thing is. So it's like connectivity is absolutely all there, all around you, all of the time. You just need to open your eyes to it, and then reap the benefits from that, because they're enormous.
Right.
They're
Definitely.
absolutely enormous.
Absolutely. And, sort of taking that mindset that everybody has something you can learn from. Everybody can be your teacher. Everybody can be, a guide for you on your own journey, because, we are sort of taught that lone wolf mentality of I'm going to rise to the top of, maybe it's my business or my, just sort of take control of my life from this sort of individual perspective. And I think it's good to have a sense of individuality and like recognize your sort of individual expression and your own uniqueness that is you, but sort of embracing sort of your role of an individual in a sort of global connected society, is with sort of like like everything is sort of, I think about the hierarchies a lot in the sense that everything is sort of in a hierarchy. Like in a hospital with somebody who's a cleaner, somebody might view them at the bottom of that hierarchy, right? In a hospital, like, oh, they're only a cleaner, as opposed to, the brain surgeon or somebody like that might be viewed as more important. Like we sort of assign like roles within these, all of our structures are created in that sense that everybody there, you fall on a certain level. And we, in terms of if you went back to money, someone's going to make more than somebody else because they might be viewed as more important, if you will, when in actuality you sort of work hand in hand. And I think that's a big thing that's been coming up for me when I look at the state of the world. Like I dream about the idea of everybody walking hand in hand, and we're all walking each other home. We're all sort of looking for this greater good and like commonality and interconnectedness between us. And I think a lot of people, I think that's what a lot of people are looking for right now, even if it's not verbally expressed. If we don't have the words for that, because that almost sort of, that idea sort of transcends our structures. It transcends our like organization that we are living in right now. And I think that really, it it makes me sort of question, what should we be viewing as, human rights? Is it beyond just the external freedoms of, freedom of speech, and which is certainly important, of course, but shouldn't it also be freedom of opportunity and freedom of expression and freedom of, being like reaching a stage of like self-actualization and sort of bringing out your uniqueness and individuality within this greater collective? Because if everybody reached that, um, I think everybody would benefit, even the people who are deemed more important or sort of controlling of our society, if you will. And it's sort of, I think that's what people are striving for, that interconnectivity. And I do think it's only a matter of time before we reach that. And it's, maybe we don't necessarily know what that will look like, because we haven't lived in it per se, but it's like a feeling, I would say.
I agree. I think that we need to have difficulties and struggles, and you need to have the negative so
Hmm.
that the positive can strive, you know, and grow.
Hmm.
You, we do need to have both sides. To arrive to a kind of utopia is not a human nature thing, or probably it would have happened by now.
Right.
No? But if you could get each person to believe in themselves and to be able to look in the mirror in the morning and just, how are you today? You all right?
Mm.
Yeah. Okay, let's do this. Now, to have a level of empowerment that is just basic, and have responsibility for their own life and feel that their actions actually make a difference in their life. That would be an amazing, amazing thing.
Hmm.
I mean, if I could really often I see teenagers or young people in their 20s or what have you, and if you could just give me a day with that person, they would be something else the next day. They really would. I mean, if you could work, you as an individual, to bring empowerment to one person every day, then your society it's impossible that it would not change.
Mm.
And it's impossible that you would not have this, your wonderful image of everyone walking hand in hand. It's impossible. Yes, not everyone's going to be walking hand in hand. Sometimes some people are going to be super grumpy and not want to do it today.
Hmm.
But in general, the elevation of the spirit is tantamount. And what I see is we are changing from this idea that spirit is something outside of ourself.
Mm.
You are God. You are an expression of God. What is God? It's not an old man with a staff hanging up in the sky. It's not. No.
Right.
It's God. For me, I can't say what God is or what isn't because I don't know, and no one does. But you are a Buddha. No, you have a capacity to love unconditionally and give love to this world. You are an expression of nature. You are a creator. You are able to create things, whether those things are art or whether those things are something else. It's irrelevant. Everything is art to a degree. No,
Hmm.
but you are able to make stuff or things or experiences or situations. No,
Mm.
and so when we realize this, instead of thinking with this trapped thing in a box that can't do anything and doesn't have the opportunities that other people have, and we're comparing ourselves to other people or other things and losing, then, you know, that that person needs so much of the power that those other people have, those other people who are on that journey. There's
Mm.
other people who are, and they have their scars of being on that journey. And it's important to have scars. It's important that it hurts. You
Right.
need it to hurt sometimes. No, for me,
Definitely.
it's important, um,
Definitely.
and you can't really escape that. But the learning. You're here to learn. That's why I'm on this earth. I'm here to learn. That's how I see it. Some of my lessons have been awesome. Some of my lessons have been just wonderful, mind-blowingly wonderful. Some of them have been really painful. But what have they done? They are creating a person who has shedded enough of his fear and lack of self-esteem or lack of self-confidence to go, I'm going to help her today,
Hmm.
or him, or whatever. Um, and yeah, uniqueness, where that's where uniqueness comes in. Once you're empowered, you realize that it's better if everyone is different.
Yeah.
It's great that I have the roots that I have the ethnicity that I have. It's wonderful. It's my advantage. Was when I was a kid, it was my disadvantage. It's my advantage now. It helps me create a tribe around me who believe in me, not because of the words that I say, but because of the energy that I carry, just the way I am. And so, how lucky am I that those people want to be with me?
Mm.
If I have a tribe, I'm not the one at the front going, "Come on, tribe." I'm the one at the back going, "Come on, let's go." You at the back, who's really, really having a hard time. You get on my back. Come with me. Let's go. No,
Hmm.
let's see what we can change in your life, and let's see if we can just make a little thing different. Then, if we can just get one of your feet on the spiritual path, then we're done. Because the rest you'll do yourself. You'll make your decisions and you'll take your actions, and the things will come for yourself. No,
Right.
if that
Absolutely.
makes sense.
Absolutely. And, everybody's journey is going to look different, and it's impossible to, tell somebody exactly how they should be embarking on their spiritual path and how they should be, going about it, because we do all have unique experiences, and, our life situations look different, and we're going to have different scenarios that come up. So it's all sort of about that mindset and that empowerment and that willingness to, taking on that willingness. And I think that is what our human nature ultimately is, like originally. But we go back to the conditioning. It's sort of been conditioned on us to sort of not think in this manner. Like I look at something like a child, right? A small child is very, you know they're inquisitive, they ask questions, they explore, they'll say hi to every random stranger, they'll smile at you, they're very much like pure innocent beings who have not yet been conditioned to think in a certain mindset. And so they are just, that's a small child does. They explore, they try new things, they see what is, what the world is. They sort of are, they're a student of the world because it's so brand new. And I think if we can sort of return to that inner child, that mindset, it's like being reborn. Like we sort of take a whole new life approach and get back to that natural state like we were, as a young, explorative, inquisitive uh, child. And I think that is what being reborn is all about. That idea. No, so.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. I think that what we do with children. I'm doing homeschooling now because of coronavirus and what have you. And what
Mm,
what, what we do with kids is, you've got this amazing ball of energy, and then you say to it, you can't do that. No, you have to draw like this. Your writing has to be like this. No, we have to learn this thing now. No, you have to. And there's all these have tos and have to, and that amazing ball just kind of goes, gets smaller and smaller, and
mm,
uh, but we have fear of freedom, and we have fear of giving freedom, because then what happens? Then we're not able to control. Um, you know, there's loads of conspiracy theories all over the place, all of the time, about the Illuminati have control over us, and they don't want us to
mm,
do this, or they want us to do that. Okay, so that's fine, but all that produces in me is helplessness, and that's not productive at all. Um, but what if we just gave everyone control of their own life and said, well, if you want to learn something, come and I'll help you learn it. I'm not going to teach you it, but I will help you learn it.
mm,
You as a teacher, um, it's so different when you do that. It's so different when you sit down with a kid, and instead of going, no, you do it like this, you're like, well, so how could we do this?
mm.
How, and let's get it wrong. Come on, let's get it wrong. And how
Right.
fun it will be to get it wrong. Come on, let's do it and make errors. Errors is fantastic, isn't it? Miles Davis said errors is music is just I can't remember, something like music is just errors and mistakes or something.
Hmm.
Yeah, fantastic. Make those mistakes. Let's lose the fear of making mistakes, and then have control and all these things. It doesn't mean anything. There can be Illuminati for all they want, and let them have their control, but it doesn't affect me if I'm just free, if I'm free to make choices myself and go through with those choices.
Definitely. And sort of explorative, like with children, explorative of the process and sort of allowing mistakes and allowing just that's a mindset I try and take on, especially like I would tutor with one-on-one with kids, and it's like they'd bring in stuff that's sometimes beyond my head, like it's math or like algebra. I'm like, well, let's explore. I don't necessarily know. Let's just try and, make a mistake and figure it out. But I think, doing that with anybody in any situation and giving people control and freedom to be themselves within and just try things is it's what life is really all about. And sort of a really big part of the spiritual journey and a really big part of, you know, finding our unique selves, just exploring, just willingness to just go for it. I think that's something it's such a simple like concept, but
Yeah,
we really complicate it. We have sort of shied away from it. So
yeah,
it's something that I've had to relearn, because there is that fear. There is that sort of we aren't taught how to explore, but I don't think we need to be taught how to explore. We just sort of need to remember it. We just sort of need to essentially let go of all of the other conditioned I guess you could call it junk. Like, there's a certain amount of conditioning that could be beneficial, but that stuff, just let it go. Um, so, I mean, we're over an hour at this point. We've hit on a lot of great subjects. I, is there any sort of like last, reflective thoughts you have sort of on, what we've been talking about and sort of what you would want to leave people with, based on everything that we've touched upon?
I think the most important thing for me is really living one's truth. Is really taking that time, no matter how long it is or how short it is, if it's once a day or once a week or once a month or once a year or whatever, to be with yourself. It's something we're taught not to do. As we're taught not to explore, we're also taught to not be alone and be with ourselves.
Mhm.
But if you are the universe, which you are, and you have it here in your hand, then you have all of the knowledge and all of the wisdom of the universe in every cell of your body already. So in some ways, there is no need for a search. It's already all there. You need to just get rid of all of the layers that have been put upon you, or you've put on yourself, because we do that as well. It's not everyone
Mhm.
else's fault, no. Let's just really try and work on living truthfully. And I don't just mean don't lie. I
Mhm.
mean really, yeah, don't lie. But sometimes a white lie is actually a really important thing. So, no, um,
Mhm.
but really take time each day, even if it's only a minute. I mean, the people that I work with, I do a lot of healing work. I'm doing a lot of distance healing work at the moment as well. I'm just really asking people to just take it 5 minutes and just be with yourself. You don't need to meditate. You don't need to do anything, because a lot of people are scared of meditation because it means they have to do something. They don't know how to do it, and they sit there and they're like, how do I breathe? Am I supposed to be imagining something? Or what am I? Oh, I have to stop my thoughts, but I can't, and
Mhm.
therefore I can't meditate. No, just sit and just shut the system down. We have a great video on our Instagram about this called shutting down. Just shut your system down for 5 minutes. Just sit there and don't fall asleep. But just sit there and be and ask, well, how am I at the moment? Why is my heart beating so fast? Okay, I'm a bit nervous. Cool. I'm nervous. Fine. I'm not going to judge that or say, well, that means because I'm not very good at this and other people are better than this, and I'm comparing myself. And no, just relax and let things go and allow life to bring you what it's going to bring you anyway. Just be for just a bit of time, and shut your nervous system down, because the nervous system is firing, and it's firing all the time. We're taught to
Mhm.
keep it firing. And then and then you wonder why you're having a heart attack when you're 45 or whatever. It's, because you just like all the time. Shut the system down and just be with yourself. And find a way to enjoy that if you don't enjoy it at the moment,
Mhm.
because a lot of people don't. Most of the people don't. I know people. I have people surrounding me in my life, people close and not so close, and they cannot do that, and it scares the hell out of them. And there's real fear of them just being with themselves, and so they need to drink alcohol every day, or smoke, or they need an escapism because they're scared of that. But you don't need to be scared of it, because you could just do it for a minute. You could even time a minute, no time at all, just be. How am I? I'm all right. No, I'm not all right. I'm a bit depressed. I don't feel very good. No, and just allow yourself space.
Mhm.
I would say that's the. I don't like advice,
Yeah.
because any advice that you give anyone is not for them, it's for you. And I need to do that as well, and I do it. And I need to do that a lot, and I do shut my system down every day. I need to. I practice Kundalini yoga every day. I meditate every day. I chant every day, not because it's cool, but because I need it. I
Yeah.
need it to stay in a place that's
Me too.
fresh and honest, and and as pure as possible, as purely me as possible.
Absolutely. Me too. And when you start doing that over the long term, first day, you might not, you might feel something the first day, but once you have it as a sustained practice, that's when you notice the benefits and you realize the necessity of it and the need for it.
Consistency is everything. Do it if it's for 30 seconds, cool, but do it every day.
Yeah,
No? And
definitely.
you will notice wonderful change. Yeah.
Absolutely. And I think that's a beautiful point to wrap up on. So, Jim, thank you so much for coming on to the show, joining the Fifth Dimension. I really enjoyed this conversation. I think we hit on some great talking points. And is that where can listeners go to sort of find you, interact with you, find your work?
You can find me in all kinds of places. Find me on Instagram at Jim Rajan, my name. I'm on Spotify. We have a lot of healing music on Spotify under my name again, Jim Rajan. Just look us up. If you're on Insight Timer, we have a lot of guided meditations and guided visualizations and visualization courses on Insight Timer, the meditation app. But you can, all of that would be encapsulated really, because I talk about all of the different platforms I'm on in Instagram. Yeah, go to my Instagram, go to Jim Raj and come and follow us and be a part of what we're trying to do, and come and just sort of grow with us, because we'd love to have you with us.
Awesome. I love that. And I'll link that in the episode notes. So it's right there. People can just scroll down and click one button. They'll get that instant reward of just scrolling down, and they can find you. Don't even have to go on a journey to find it. So Jim, thanks again so much for coming on. I really enjoyed the chat with you.
No, me too. Thank you so much. It's an absolute honor. Yeah, it really was. Deeply grateful. Thank you so much, Evan. Anytime. You want to do it again?
Let's do it. Hey, let's plan on it. Absolutely. We'll definitely plan on it. All right. Well, with that, I can end the